Sometimes you're looking around for a piece of furniture to either display something or store something away, and you look everywhere and you just can't find exactly what you need. So you can either design it yourself and have somebody build it, or you can go to YouTube, watch a bunch of videos, figure out how to make it yourself, and in the end, you have something that fits exactly what you're looking for. That's kind of what I did with this whiskey sample cabinet over here. And if you're interested in seeing how I did that, stick around. Oh, and I want to caveat this. This is not a how to build a whiskey sample cabinet video. Trust me, if you want to do woodworking or anything with tools, there are hundreds of other YouTubers out there who are far more qualified than I am to show you how to do something. This is really more about if you find something in your life that you need to develop a solution for, like I did with this sample cabinet, you can go through your process, design what you need, figure out the steps, and either have somebody do it for you or figure out how to do it yourself. So with that in mind, I hope you stick around and watch the video. So here's my dilemma. For each one of my bottles of scotch, I take a sample. I think it's like a 2-ounce sample. And I label each one of these samples, and I'm just running out of room. And so I'm thinking about building a little dram sample cabinet over here on that wall. I just built this little room here down in the salt mine a couple years ago, but I think I can fit between the two stud cavities. So there's like a stud, and a stud. If I eliminate that center stud, I can have maybe like a 32-inch cabinet, almost floor to ceiling, to keep dram samples on. But I just wanted to kind of do a bit of a before and after. So I think I'm gonna get started on it, clear some of this stuff out, and start working on that this week. I'll let you know how it goes. So the first thing I did was kind of scribe the lines. I wanted to get a good cut through this shiplap wall. So thankfully I got a track saw, so I can I cut that and then remove the upper sheathing and then the lower sheathing. Then I removed the studs and just kind of cleaned everything up and then cut that insulation out of there. And of course, end of the day, I got to come back and vacuum and clean up really well. That's one part I usually struggle with. So the next day I came back and I had to tap back in these shiplap boards where I actually, when I cut it out of the studs, some of the boards raised, so I nailed those back down. Then I came back in and I wanted to use some Tyvek tape to kind of seal where the insulation board meets the concrete. And then I used Reflectix. And I taped that in with Tyvek tape. It took 2 strips and that covered it, and let them overlap a little bit. So first I put Tyvek tape down to have something to tape to. Then I put down the Reflectix, and then I taped over it. And then, of course, I had to clean up at the end of the day. Next, I started on the box cabinet, and it's a simple pocket screw construction. And if you've ever used a Kreg jig before, it makes making cabinets and boxes really simple. And you just got to plan out a little bit so that none of those pocket joints show during the finished product, which I didn't have any problem with that. They're all on the outside. And what I'm doing here is kind of going through and making all of the little holes for the pins for the shelves. I wanted to have a lot of glass shelves and be able to move those around. So you have to go through each side, the front and back of each side, and get those holes in there so you can move the pins around and your shelves are nice and level. Theoretically, that's real easy to do. And I got to be honest, every once in a while I screw that up and my holes are off a little bit. But I just shim out the little shelf supports with a piece of cork if it's off. I just don't want that wobbling around too much. There's that finished product. I know that's quick. So I didn't show the actual construction of it, but here it is. I glued it, screwed it together, and nailed it. And I'm just kind of clamping it all to set up overnight. Got a little bit of racking, and so I clamped it down to the top of my workbench, excuse me, my workbench too. So this is a temporary shop. Looks so nasty, but the next morning I came back, I unclamped it, and I'm taking it into the office, do a dry fit, and as luck would have it, it all fit. So the next step is making the doors. I do simple mortise and floating tenon joinery on all my doors. So I cut, 2 stiles, 2 rails. And what I'm doing here is going through with a router and cutting the slot in the middle to receive the panel. So I do that on both doors. And now I'm going to cut the panels for the inside of the door. So I cut the panels to length into height, and then 2 different doors, so 2 panels. Then I got to go back with this first I dry fit it, and then I go back with the Japanese saw and I cut the corners off and round those off, because the routing on the channel is rounded, and of course the panel is square, so I got to cut the corners off. I check for square, doing the second panel here, put it all together, glue it up. See, there's the little floating tenons going in there to make nice strong doors, and then I got to scrape the glue off with a saw. So the next day I came back and I'm making the trim, and what I'm showing you here is like a little 1/2 inch by 1/4 inch deep channel that the LED lighting is going to go through. So I'm running it through the router, cleaning those out, and then continue on the next day, just building some more doors. I got a couple of small doors for inside of the middle part of the cabinet, and then this is where the European hinges will be placed on the door. So you have to use another jig that rounds out receiving those European hinges. Here's a walnut shelf. So that's kind of the cabinet laying on its side, and then here's the upper part of the frame. And I have to put that on last just because I want to make sure that all my door measurements and so forth are just right, because I ordered the glass. I want to make sure it all fits. And that's just a test fit of the middle doors. So here's a bit of a look at dry fitting the rough part of the cabinet with some of the frame involved, and making sure that the doors are going to operate properly, that the main door is swinging out, has a place to go, and it's not going to break the glass. And then I'm just using a simple tongue and groove panel for the back, and that is going to be wrapped up with Tyvek tape and waterproofed. I put a couple of coats of paint on that to make sure it's sealed on the back. And then the rest of this just kind of the cabinet as it's coming together. I made the upper doors the same way I made the bottom doors. I just made them out of walnut. I'm testing my shelf heights. I wish I had a little bit more room on the shelves, but all in all, it's looking pretty good. I think I'll enjoy it. So there it is, the finished sample cabinet. And I'll give you a little bit of a tour here. You see there's plenty of room for me to expand. I got some nice hardware. And so when I designed it, I wanted to have the shelves adjustable. Some of the shelves can fit my glasses and, just memorabilia, a little bit of peat and barley I got from different distilleries that I've traveled to, or courses that I've taken for blending whiskey and so forth. And then I designed it so in this middle cabinet here, I can store my boxes that I buy all my little sample bottles in, and my tags and all that. I'm probably going to make myself some nice walnut boxes for that as well. And then down below, I have some room to store additional bottles. So it just, obviously this is not a how to build a cabinet video. It's more of an exercise in realizing that sometimes the world's not going to provide you what you need, and you have to go figure it out yourself and design it, and either have it built or find the resources and develop the skills to do it yourself. And so I'm sure there's 1 or 2 things around your house that you can figure out that if you invest a little bit of time, a little bit of effort, you can come up with something just like this, and probably a lot better. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you on the next video.